All right, coming up to speak first, Hannah Minett, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. I wanted to start off our short speeches with the toast to you guys. So, William James said that community stagnates without the impulse of the individual, and the impulse dies away without the sympathy of the community. So, in the case of the bookshelf, the individual is comprised of many who over the years are continue to contribute to make this place what I believe it feels to be, which is warm and open and interested in challenges. Across Canada, bookstores, indie cinemas, and other community-inspired businesses are vanishing. So we are therefore so grateful for your choice that you make when you come to the bookshelf. Whether or not you're wandering the bookstore, having a meal and some wine, taking in a show, your coming allows us to keep moving forward. We're very grateful for that. Thank you for animating the space. I'd like to thank you for being the generous and curious people you are, so we can continue doing interesting things with movies and writers and musicians and community organizations. Cheers to you. Thank you very much.
Over the past 40 years, the bookshelf has had over 2,000 people work here. It would be nice to recognize all of them individually, but I think I would be reciting names all night and you guys would not be dancing. I would like to thank Bruce, Edwin, Karen, Hannah, Braden, Brittany, David Bassinet, David Leroy, David Kachupara, Sarah, Paul, Nick, Garrett, Sonia, Simone, Heather, Catalina, and everybody else that has put this evening together. I'd also like to thank my wife, Stephanie Minett, and brother-in-law, Mike Vanstone, for listening to all bookshelf all the time. This is how our family dinners go. Gotta grab my glass of wine here. Cheers to bookshelf staff, present, or past, present, and future. So let's have a cheers, guys. Lastly, but most importantly, thanks to our customers for allowing us to have this great team. If it were not for you, this place would not exist. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.
Okay. It is really terrific to see you all here tonight because, as Hannah said and Ben said, this party is really for you. I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you have really enabled me to have a job that I am perfectly suited for and for which has been one of two organizing principles in my life. I've been so lucky to work in a place where I have talked to so many of you about so many things, from CO2 concentration to the curse of hot flashes. I have lived in the flow of information and imagination that comes out of this thing called the book. And I'm so obsessed with the virtually impossible job of keeping up with what's out there that you can find me at 7:30 every morning in bed with my coffee and my, I hate to say it, my iPad, surfing book-related and book review sites. In the last few years, I've been blessed with working with staff who are younger than I am. And this has been exciting and challenging, just trying to keep up, as I'm technically kind of a Luddite. And so I have my partner, Doug, to help with that also, because he is like the opposite of a Luddite. It's an interesting challenge keeping an older business alive. All of us can remember when we were where we were when the Twin Towers were hit. Brian and I were at the film festival, and when I saw the horrible scene on TV, I really thought it was going to be the end of civilization as we know it. I felt that our economy would collapse, total chaos would prevail, and that was it for the bookshelf. But when I returned to Guelph the next day, I came right to work, And I really did. I found the bookstore full of people talking to each other, the cafe wild with conversation, and the cinema and e-bar alive with bodies. It made me realize how important a gathering place, a place like this, actually was. Yes. My other organizing principle is my family, which often goes beyond genetics. And I guess you all know who you are. We were having a visioning meeting a couple of years ago when Doug and I were seriously considering closing because we were in our 60s at that point. Ben introduced himself as a sibling of the bookshelf at the meeting, and at the time I thought, what the hell is he talking about? But the more I thought about it, the more I understood that the bookshelf did have a soul, that it wasn't just a building with some stuff in it, and indeed Ben and Hannah did have a shadow sibling. That was why I'm having a hard time saying it's time to close. And I'm grateful to both Ben and Hannah because, damn it, I'd really miss going to the movies, being surrounded by books, and watching people use this building so well. So just in closing, I would like to thank all of our staff. The kitchen staff has worked really hard tonight, and so does the bar staff. So thank you so much. And also our 10-year stalwarts, Ken Hood, Peter Coleman, and Peter Henderson. And also there are 4 anonymous people who, obviously they're anonymous, so I can't tell you who they are, who have really encouraged us to keep our doors open, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We're not closing.
Yet. Okay, I'm Doug. I'm the curmudgeon. So the first thing I'll ask, how many people in this room are under 25? Please raise your hands. Okay. So those of you who are under 25, this place started when Barb and I were actually 24. That's how old we were. So there aren't many people in this room. Okay, so it's very interesting. Like, one of the weirdest things I've been reflecting on is this whole thing of 40 and what that means, because it's a crazy amount of time really to trying to do anything. Think of all the companies that have vanished when you read the business pages. We have no more Enron, we have no more all these large outfits, and this weird place is still alive. Yeah! So I would like to thank Guelph because I was born outside New York, grew up in Philadelphia, Rochester, New York, lived in Montreal, lived in Toronto, and then I came to Guelph with Barb, and Barb got a teaching job, and I was going to university again, and it was nice. University's okay, but we had an itch to do something, and this was that crazy itch. So let me describe for you for a second what we came to. So Barb and I came here, and we were fascinated by schoolhouses for a while. So we rented a schoolhouse outside Guelph, and we used to play road hockey in the road every day after school. Barbara would be teaching, and I would be at university, and we'd get out there and shoot tennis balls at each other. And when we got sick of doing that, we would do things like use bow and arrows and do target shooting and things like that. And then we would even do skeet shooting, because my younger brother had a shotgun, but nobody got shot like Dick Cheney. We managed to keep everybody alive. So we did this, and then we bought another schoolhouse, and I decided to do renovations, which I am wont to do whenever I buy buildings. And at the same time, following a year in the UK, or not a year, but a couple months in the UK, we decided to try and do something. So I was really unaware of Guelph as a city. I really hadn't tuned into its downtown. It was robust. It had lots of things happening, but it was kind of boring. But there were some funky things, and just somebody once told me that you come alive again if you hear the word mentioned or you hear the idea mentioned. So I wanted to give some life to these things. So we had Keating's Pharmacy. Does anybody in the room remember Keating's? Okay, for those of you who didn't know about Keating's, so Keating's had a lunch counter where you could get raisin buns, and there would be people who would, like old Mr. Knight. Do you remember Knight Lumber? So old Mr. Knight and his daughter would go to Keating's after picking their mail up, and he looked like a gentleman out of the 20s. You know, he was very spiffy the way he would dress all the time, but it was quite wonderful. And then the pharmacist would be across from the lunch counter, and there would be these interesting interchanges. And so it was one of the interesting community spots, really, was this odd thing, which was a pharmacy downtown. And then there was Kennedy's bookstore, which was just a couple doors down from that, also on Wyndham Street. And Kennedy's sold paint and wallpaper, but they had a few books in it. But it was really not a community place, and I really never tuned into it. Because do any people here remember Kennedy's book? Okay, so Kennedy's. And then there was Miss Grenier had a bookstore. And Miss Grenier had a bookstore on Quebec Street, actually, down toward Duncan McPhee. And I think she had about 12 books in it. And her method, but it was interesting. She was passionate about books. And her method was she would call people when a book would come in. So she would say, ooh, this is a new romance or something like this. And that's the way she made that business work. And then we had the Wellington Hotel, which actually sold booze in those days. And the Royal Hotel and the Regent Hotel. And we had, of course, in the Royal Hotel, we had the Chooch. And the Priory. And then we had the Ambassador, which became the Diplomat, which had the woodshed on its side. Okay, so this is another from that era. And the Albion in those days wasn't all fancy schmancy, but instead we had the good old days of gender segregation. And the only food that they had available was pickled eggs. So there you go. And then there was I'll just give you a couple more. Then there was a leather shop on Wilson Street. And they made hippie sandals, which I was always happy to buy. They were quite fun. And one other thing which has had an interesting transformation is we went from the Trianon to Van Gogh's Ear, which is also the Salsateria, of course. So anyway, that was that. You know, Ben alluded to the great number of staff who've worked here, and it really has been amazing. And I was, actually, Mark Laird was one of our staffers in the, what was that, Mark? Was that the 90s? 80s? 80s. Hey, thank you. Okay. He was just telling me, and it was very sweet, because about how much this place had been a training ground for lots of folks, because our management style here has always been we hire people because they're interesting and fun and intelligent, and we give them a lot of rope, you know, and they don't hang themselves very often, but I think it's very important to do it. And so that there's been a great number of people that have come through this place who have been open to working with each other and learning with each other. And it's a matter of great pride for me that people have found this place to be a great educator for people who have ended up in business elsewhere, and many different kinds of businesses as well. Wow, too many names to read there. But okay, so one of the other ideas that I had that I wanted to talk about is that basically the Minett family, our job has been to be a conjurer. You know, we cook up the sleight of hand, whether it's a bookstore, with the books that we provide, or the books that you encourage us to get, because, you know, we don't know everything. You know, we're just sort of in it with you. So we cook it up, and then we have to learn to perform what we've cooked up, but then it doesn't work unless you guys get the magic of what we're doing. So that is what this place has been about. It's about magic, and our job is to recreate the magic, and your job is to tell us if the magic is stupid or if it's good and you want more. So anyway, thank you all very much for coming. It has been a pleasure sharing my fantasy, which is also this business, with you. And I look forward to Ben and Hannah carrying it forward, because they wouldn't let us close it down. So.